As New York City elects its first Muslim and youngest in a century mayor, the shockwaves are being felt far beyond the city's five boroughs. Zohran Mamdani's landslide victory over political veteran Andrew Cuomo has redrawn America's political map and set up a direct confrontation with President Donald Trump. In a passionate victory speech before thousands in Brooklyn, Mamdani declared, "Hope is alive. In this moment, darkness, New York will be the light," before turning his message directly to Trump, saying, "Since I know you're watching, turn the volume up." His words were not only a challenge, but also a declaration of defiance against a president who had warned that federal support for New York could be cut if Mamdani won. This historic result marks a defining moment for the city, a test of whether progressive leadership can withstand pressure from Washington. So will Mamdani's promises of rent freezes, free transit, and social justice survive Trump's threats and the weight of federal power? And how will this clash reshape the future of America's most iconic city? I'm Hannah Al-Hamalawi. Welcome to In Depth. According to the New York Times, Zohran Mamdani's election as New York City's first Muslim mayor marks one of the most remarkable political upsets in the city's history. The 34-year-old Democratic Socialist defeated former Governor Andrew Cuomo, overturning the city's entrenched political order. Mamdani, once polling at just 1%, built a grassroots movement uniting working-class immigrants and young progressives around housing and affordability. His campaign defied traditional power brokers, rejecting big money donors and courting voters through community events and social media. After the shocking primary win, Mamdani faced fierce resistance from business elites and party insiders, some of whom even appealed to President Donald Trump to intervene. Yet Mamdani's charm offensive, including outreach to influential, helped ease tensions and secure victory. His rise from unknown assemblyman to mayor symbolizes a generational shift in American urban politics and a challenge to Trump-era power dynamics. According to The Guardian, New York City Mayor-elect Zohran Mamdani delivered a fiery victory speech invoking Donald Trump as he outlined his vision for a fairer, more inclusive city. Speaking to an energized crowd in Brooklyn after defeating former Governor Andrew Cuomo by over 8 points, Mamdani, the city's first Muslim mayor, vowed to dismantle the very conditions that allowed Trump to rise. He declared New York would no longer be a place where you can traffic in Islamophobia and win an election, and directly challenged the president with the phrase, "Trump, the volume up." Mamdani promised to hold landlords accountable, end corruption benefiting billionaires, and strengthen labor protections. His win marked a dramatic political shift, symbolizing a rebuke of establishment power and the politics of division. Trump quickly responded on Truth Social with a cryptic message, and so it begins, signaling a likely escalation in the political clash ahead.
After all, if anyone can show a nation betrayed by Donald Trump how to defeat him, it is the city that gave rise to him. And if there is any way to terrify a despot, it is by dismantling the very conditions that allowed him to accumulate power. This is not only how we stop Trump, it's how we stop the next one. So Donald Trump, since I know you're watching, I have 4 words for you. Turn the volume up.
New York City has just witnessed a political earthquake. Zohran Mamdani, a 34-year-old state assembly member and self-described democratic socialist, has claimed a sweeping victory in the mayoral race, setting the stage to become the city's first Muslim mayor and youngest in more than a century. On the election day, U.S. President Donald Trump harshly criticized Mamdani in a Truth Social post, describing him as a communist under whose leadership New York will never survive. He also threatened to cut off federal funding for New York City to the minimum required by law if Mamdani wins the election. In a fiery victory speech in Brooklyn, Mamdani declared that in this moment of political darkness, New York will be the light. He called out Trump directly, describing him as the avatar of things that plague New York City, the bad landlords, and the culture of corruption. And he argued that the city that gave birth to Trump should rightly be the place that demonstrates to the world how to take him on. Mamdani's program, rooted in rent freezes, free transportation and child care, and labor rights, reflects a stark pivot from traditional New York politics. Not only his economic policies, but Mamdani also sparked controversy as a Muslim American of immigrant background in the anti-immigration nationalistic current political climate in the U.S. under Trump. Now the real test begins. Can this rising progressive star convert his triumph into tangible change for the city? And how far will Trump, wielding the power of the federal government,
And for more analysis, we're joined from Washington by Mrs. Ginger Chapman, lawyer and political analyst. Thank you so much, Mrs. Chapman, for joining us. And from Iowa by Mr. Nauman Abu Isa, political analyst specialized in U.S. affairs. Welcome to Q News, sir. Now, I would start with you, of course, Mrs. Chapman. In light of Mamdani's victory, what elements made this win possible in America's most powerful city? We're talking New York here.
Yes. Well, thank you, Hala, for having us today, and greetings to your viewers and your other guest. And as we all saw last night, elections were brutal for Republicans, and there's going to be a lot of blame to go around, whether Trump campaigned hard enough for Republican candidates. But what we saw was essentially the Democrats won on affordability. And one of the things that was most notable about Mamdani's campaign is after Trump's election in 2024, Mamdani went to all of the neighborhoods that had shifted to Trump, and he asked them, did you vote for Trump, and why did you vote for Trump? And the most common answer he got was affordability. The city is too expensive. Ordinary people cannot afford to live here anymore. And we keep voting for Democrats and nothing ever changes, nothing ever happens. So that was what Mamdani centered his campaign around, to great success, because the New Yorkers felt like people were listening to them. And he offered a route, a way out of the affordability crisis that Americans are experiencing right now. This was also a message that resonated in Virginia and also in New Jersey. Virginia was significant because of the federal shutdown. Northern Virginia is home to a great many federal workers. In fact, it appears that the Democrats did prolong the government shutdown in order to drive Democrat voter turnout. So there is going to be a lot of analysis on last night's election results. However, with Mamdani, what we saw is that he largely ran on the affordability and also to a lesser extent on resistance to Trump, which is also a major Democrat message right now, is resistance to Trump. So what are we going to see in New York? Well, first, Andrew Cuomo won a very lackluster campaign. It was very surprising to Republicans that Trump did not campaign for the Republican candidate, and at the last minute, he endorsed Cuomo. This shows a very disorganized Republican message. Republicans feel that Trump was not invested in yesterday's elections. This is a strategic mistake because they are also a signal for the upcoming midterm elections. And this, on a broader level, shows that Trump is not paying attention to domestic policies. The American voters here at home want him to do more about the economy and about the impasse between Republicans and Democrats. So this was a referendum on Donald Trump's performance, as well as a signal from the New York voters where they want to see New York go in the future. As far as Mamdani's ability to carry out his campaign promises, many of his campaign promises rely on the state legislature in Albany, New York. So, for example, raising taxes on the wealthy. The mayor of New York cannot do that. Albany legislators have to do that. As far as rent freezes, this is also something the mayor of New York cannot do on his own. He will have to work with a great many commercial and landlord and other political groups to carry this out. And his idea of free transportation. What we have seen from other jurisdictions that have tried that is when you offer free bus and train rides, the buses and trains wind up becoming a shelter for homeless people. They will just ride the loop to get out of the elements and to get out of the weather. So Mamdani has a lot of obstacles before him. However, he has capitalized on the energy of the young people. If we break down the voting results, Cuomo got all the people over 50, 55 years old. Mamdani got everybody under 30. The people in the 40 to 50 age group, they were a toss-up, but they overwhelmingly went for Mamdani. And this shows that the young people in America are becoming the largest, most vocal political group. This is also a very big shift in America. Usually the elderly, older people were the reliable voters. That's who politicians appeal to. Now we're seeing a dramatic shift. It is the voters under 30, under 40, and also the voting results tracked Donald Trump's disapproval ratings. The lower Trump's approval ratings, the greater the margin of Democrat victory. So there is a lot in last night's election results that analysts are going to be looking over.
Yes, definitely. Mr. Abu Isa, Mamdani's win makes him the first Muslim mayor of New York City. What global signal does this send about minority representation in the United States?
Greetings. Yes, this is a breakthrough for immigrants, for Muslims, and for socialist Democrats. Mamdani ran a very effective campaign. He mobilized his base and he increased the voting percentages, and also he mobilized 100,000 people to knock on doors for him in the last year or so. So this is a change in politics for the Democrats. He won the Democratic primary and he pushed the establishment out to run against him from outside the Democratic Party. And that is a huge change in politics in the United States. Some of the Democrats came and endorsed him, but many Democrats stayed on the fence and did not endorse Mamdani because he is a change in the democratic politics in this country, and he is effective in doing so. So he broke many taboos, many barriers in this campaign. The establishment, Democrat and Republicans, tried to marginalize immigrants and Muslims and have Islamophobia sentiments in this country, and he ran heads on those issues, and he did not shy away from hiding from any of those issues, and he defended his positions clearly, and he got the stamp approval from the public. And that is a change in American politics. New York leads the country in those areas, and we look forward for him succeeding in governing New York, because he has really captured the heart of many people in New York and in the nation. The whole nation was focused on New York yesterday, and they tuned their TVs on the results, and they were happy about the changes happening in front of their eyes.
Yes. Mrs. Chapman, Mamdani's campaign, as reported, emphasized the politics of the many free transit, childcare, and rent freezes. What does this tell us about changing urban priorities in the United States?
Well, one of the things as a result of the previous COVID pandemics and essentially the economic upheaval that America experienced over the last few years is that affordability is becoming critical to Americans. It's not just the cost of childcare, also health insurance, homeowners insurance. And we're finding that as America is becoming more corporatized, expenses for ordinary Americans are increasing. They are becoming, frankly, untenable. This is one of the reasons why we have this federal government shutdown, because of health insurance costs. And on a larger level, this shows that our health insurance, our medical system is breaking down in America. Our judicial system is breaking down. Americans are seeing a lot of our institutions no longer function the way they were intended. They no longer work for Americans. They work for corporations, and Americans are paying the price. And this is a message of discontent that resonates strongly with the American people. We saw this not just in New York, but also in Virginia, in New Jersey. And this is one of the things that President Trump promised he would tackle. Prosperity at home. He promised he would open up supply lines, bring down energy costs. Just this year on the East Coast, Americans' electricity bills doubled. In some cases, they increased dramatically because of our infatuation with green energy. So Americans are hurting financially, utility bills, on a lot of different levels. And that's why Mamdani, whether he can carry out his specific promises, it appears he will be working to bring costs down for New Yorkers, and this is something that Americans need. One thing I do want to mention, one big flaw, Cuomo and Republicans and Democrats attacked Mamdani because he's a Muslim. They tried to say, oh, he's a jihadist. This failed on a big level. And they should have said he's inexperienced, he's young. They could have gone after his political performance, but they made it about his identity. And the
about
reason
religion,
this failed
about
is,
race, yes, about identity, as you said.
Yes.
That shows,
and this failed
I guess that shows weakness. What do you think about that?
Well, it actually failed because of what New Yorkers see every day. And Mamdani came to New York at 7 years old. He is a New Yorker. New York is full of people from all over the world, many nationalities, ethnicities, religions, and they're all New Yorkers. So when New Yorkers looked at Mamdani, they saw another New Yorker. They didn't see a jihadist. And that's why this was such a flawed attack to use against Mamdani. It's the same way when they said Trump is a Russian agent. People saw Trump, they know him, they know he's not a Russian agent. People see Mamdani's performance every day, and they see him as just another New Yorker, which is why those identity attacks failed. And one positive thing is that hopefully the identity attacks, personal attacks, as they become less effective, that will allow politicians to refrain from these ineffective attacks and focus on the actual politics, because we see that is what wins elections. That's what Mamdani did. He focused on the politics, the affordability crisis, the issues affecting
the people,
everyday
touching the
New
people's
Yorkers
lives
and Americans
directly, right?
Exactly, and
Yes.
that's how he won.
Yes. Mr. Abu Isa, Mamdani's immigrant background campaign emphasized solidarity with non-white, non-wealthy communities. How might that resonate in the Middle East and Global South with the anti-immigrant sentiment raising in the United States, as mentioned by Mrs. Chapman? In some areas, not of course all areas.
Yeah, Mamdani tapped into his background and he mobilized the minorities in New York, and he spoke in his campaign in many languages, including Arabic and Spanish, and he mobilized those groups on sympathizing with their struggles. There are shifting changes in the United States. The poor are getting poorer and the rich are getting richer, and there is the gap is widening between those two groups, and he really tapped into the working class and sympathized with their struggles on daily basis. And he also saw that New York is a very diverse mosaic city in the United States, and it has lots of minority in the millions, more minorities probably in New York than many other cities around the nation in the United States. And he worked with all those groups, and he brought hope and dignity to all those people, and that was, I mean, sensed by all those groups. He even in his victory speech, he called his wife Hayati, my life, basically, and he said in the Steinway.
That's
Yeah,
sweet.
I mean, he did mention those things to connect deeply with these communities. It's a cultural issues as well. I mean, we have seen
Yes.
now
Well,
that
that
the
was very smart, in my opinion. I don't know if you agree with me. I mean, that's smart because that way he's appealing to women, to immigrants of various backgrounds, to younger generations. What do you think?
Yeah, he's showing that he does respect women. He does respect the LGBTQ community, and he respects all communities. And he said that he is going to govern all communities, including those who did not vote for him. And that is a breath of fresh air for the New Yorkers, and for the rest of the nation, where we see some elite people trying to govern, and they show that they know the way and nobody else knows the way. And he is working with all the groups in New York to make sure that everybody is respected and everybody's concerns are listened to, and try to address those concerns also in any ways possible. So this is what Trump ran on in the past, and he tried to be a populist president, but he did fail a big way, and he tried to fight Mamdani and tried to undermine him by supporting his opponent, and he failed also. And Mamdani was not shy about confronting the president, and there is a sentiment, I guess, in the United Nations on the midterm. Usually they vote against the current president, and that's what Mamdani also tapped into. And we probably will see that there will be a change in Congress a year from now when we go to the voting booth again in next November.
Okay. Mrs. Chapman, Mamdani explicitly challenged Trump. He said, turn the volume up. What does this public confrontation suggest about the mayor's future relationship with the federal government? Are we about to witness a political clash, given that Trump replied in a post saying, and so it begins?
Yes, Hala, you make an excellent point. That was a very interesting Mamdani last night saying, turn the volume up. This morning, Trump responding with, and so it begins. This does not bode well for future Democrat-Republican interaction. However, the reality is that both Trump and Mamdani are populists. Trump won on a populist message, so did Mamdani. What we've seen with Trump's evolution while he's been in office is he's become less populist, and he appears to be catering more to his big money donors rather than the ordinary voters that brought him into office.
Yes.
Trump and Mamdani are going to have to work together for the good of New Yorkers and the American people.
And do you expect this to
right
happen,
now,
Mrs. Chapman? Do you expect them to work actually together?
Actually, I do. And this is because the campaign is very different than the nuts and bolts of everyday politicking, everyday administration of a city. I predict that after the after the theater of the campaigning, when Mamdani sits down to work, he is going to realize he will have to work with the federal government. Trump will have to work with Mamdani. And just as Cuomo, Eric Adams, previous mayors had to work with the president, they will have to work together on issues to make any progress. And as far as the upcoming midterm elections, this is a bad sign for Trump and the midterm elections. It does generally happen that the party in power, the party in the presidential office, loses the House in the next midterm elections. However, these off-year elections are a signal for Trump that he has to focus his attention more at home and more on what the voters, his American domestic voters, want, the issues that are getting out of control, the government shutdown, insurance, health costs, rent, electricity. And he is going to have to work with Mamdani. Trump is also a New Yorker. They're both New Yorkers. And Trump is going to be forced to set aside the theatrics and his antagonism and these angry Truth Social posts, and he is going to have to sit down with Mamdani. And this is because Trump cannot make good on his threats either. Trump cannot withhold federal funds from New York. Trump cannot just determine how those funds are spent once they arrive in New York. So both Trump and Mamdani have engaged in theatrical rhetoric for the campaign, for the opposition. But now that the election is over, they are both going to have to sit down and work through the nuts and bolts of day-to-day governance.
Okay.
And that will be most important for Mamdani to deliver to his voters. And Trump cannot alienate the Democrats. He is going to need to make peace. He cannot escalate the civil war that's already happening at home. So
Yes.
Trump will have to hold out an olive branch.
Yes. Mr. Abu Isa, Trump has threatened to cut federal support for New York if Mamdani wins. How realistic is that threat, and how might the city respond?
The federal funds come from the electorate, from the people of the United States, and they should be distributed back to the people of the United States. So those funds are not from the pocket of President Trump. This is people's money, and this money need to go back to the people. And there are regulations and measurements to redistribute those monies, and there are laws and courts which oversee that kind of distribution. So yeah, there will be some leverage for the president to threat and try to have that kind of upper hand. But then reality is going to sit in, and the money comes from the people and goes back to the people. New York is the largest city in the United States and will deserve the largest portion of the federal funds also. And if the president was not fair in distributing those monies, I think the city can take the president or the federal government to the court as well. We have a separation in power in the United States. We don't have a king or dictatorship, even though that's how the president acts sometimes. But this is not reality. It is still a democracy, and we still function with the three powers in the government: the executive power, the legislative power, and also the court system. So this is the country we are working in, and the president can say that the fight begins now, but his hands are tied, and people are going to fight back. I mean, the people are not going to give up because they've been submitted, I guess, and they were burned, and they are not happy about what's happening in the past. Previously, they said, well, empower the rich, and the rich will trickle down to the poor, and that did not happen either. The rich are getting richer, and the poor are getting poorer, and people are struggling to make ends meet. This is the reality. With the 1% of the population make more than 50% of the population, and this kind of diversity is huge in this country, and the people are not taking it anymore. And the rich might have more money, but they don't have the moral authority anymore, and that's been exposed, and the people are fighting for their own dignity and for their own livelihoods.
Well, that was Mr. Noman Abu Isa, political analyst specialized in U.S. affairs. Thank you so much. And also Mrs. Ginger Chapman, lawyer and political analyst. Thank you so much. Thank you both for your valuable insights. Ladies and gentlemen, this brings us to the end of today's episode of In Depth. My name is Hilal Hamalawi. Thank you so much for watching and stay tuned. More updates will come your way here on Q News.